Hi, this is Gil Robles, and for this video, I'm going to draw here, and you can watch me draw, and as I discuss a problem that all artists share. What do you do when you don't have an idea? What do you do when you know what you need to draw or you want to draw? You know you need to be disciplined and you know you need to set some time aside to draw and you really want to, but you don't have an idea as to what to do. And you're left staring at a blank canvas, which can be very intimidating because we kind of never launch. We never get to the point where we start the ideas start flowing and we're just staring at this thing, and this is really talking about when you're trying to think of ideas, when you're trying to draw from your imagination, when because when you have a model before you, that kind of solves the problem right there. You just pose your model and you sketch. But when you want to go beyond that and you want to come up with an idea or a concept as far as what to do, you have to really set some time aside to think. But then you know what? Even when you're sketching, sometimes you open up your sketchbook and you want to do something, but you don't have an idea as far as what to do. You're just staring at a blank page, and the thing that I can think of, there's several things that I do when it comes to this. One is to do what I'm doing in this sketchbook. The sketch is I keep a lot of sketches at work. At my lunch hour, I make a bunch of sketches. I put on some YouTube videos or I listen to music. I close the door to the office where I'm at, and I just basically sketch for that hour. That whole hour, I'm just sketching. It might be several quick sketches. It might be I might use a photo as far as reference and play with that and just do a drawing based on that. But that's my time to sketch, and I'm make sure that I'm not bothered by anything. And so what I do is sometimes I would take those sketches and I'll do what I'm doing now. I says, hey, let me play with this a little further, and I've got nothing else to do, and I want to draw. So you have those sketches, you use your old sketches, you rework them. That's what I do. Other times, I also take a lot of photos. Sometimes I take photos for some illustration that I've done, and I might I might play with those, take those out, and or use some photos that I've used for paintings, and just reuse them, repurpose them to just sketch and maybe come up with some other idea of working the photo or using a different medium or so forth, or just saying that I can do a better job than I did last time. So there's that. Other times I'm just working from memory, but that's kind of hard because when you don't have an idea, then your memory just doesn't seem to be kicking in just then. But you know what? There's a number of things that I try to kind of jog that memory. I might think about my day. I might think about my day, some things that I've seen. I always take a train ride in the morning and back home, and from work, and there might have been something that I've seen or somebody that I saw, and an interesting character and so forth. And if I don't have time to sketch them right there on the train or wherever I'm at, then I'll try to commit that to memory. And the other thing is that, sometimes, like I said, I can't pull out my sketchbook, but I'll try and remember. Let me see, what else do I do with memory? Um, there might be a conversation I have. There's a lot of things that fill your memory. There be a conversation. There may be an image you saw. There may be something that you've read. There may be, a bunch of number of things that can jog your memory. But if you think about before you sketch something like that, then you might be able to come up with something to draw. You might be able to come up with an idea. Another thing is like you sketch something that may be ridiculous, but it's funny. You like this extreme face. I mean, it's just an ugly man he yelling at you, or whatever. Or maybe he stubbed his toe or something like that. But it's a type of comic book face, that sometimes I would draw, and because it's one, it's fun, and two, it kind of gets me out there, and it's a start. That's the most important thing is you start with something, and once you start drawing, you'll come up with an idea eventually, and we'll see where it goes from there. Another thing is that you switch up on your mediums. Like I haven't done a lot of pen and ink sketching for a while. None of these black and white. I've mostly been doing paintings. So sometimes it's fun to just, not just fun, but you start testing the material and then you come up with something to draw. A lot of times when I'm looking at new brushes or something like that and I just want to test the brush, then I would come up with these pages. Some of them are just markings. Other, I would try to use a brush to draw whatever I can come up with right there. And when you're not trying real hard, it seems like you can come up with something. But when you're trying real hard to figure something out, then you know what? Then for some reason it becomes difficult. But once you start, like I started this, and I said, hey, you know what? Let me go ahead and I picked another drawing that I had done. But I had in my mind what I was going to do with that drawing. So I came up with a drawing that, it was fun to do. It was an angry face, whatever. But I really wasn't happy with it. I really didn't think it was a great drawing. And then, but after doing that drawing, I came up with a better idea. And then the thing started to flow and so forth. And I don't think that it was a great successful drawing by any means. I thought it was okay, but it was fun to do. A lot of the times, sometimes you're going to wind up with a dud, but the experience of having done it is a fun thing. Something we don't just there comes a time where you draw and you paint, and it is for the results, and especially when you're working for a client, when you're doing an illustration or so forth, and you have to produce results. At other times when it's like this, you're not necessarily having to produce results, and although it's great to get a good drawing at the end of it, but a lot of it also is the experience. Because what do you get out of it? One, you're one sketch closer to improving your drawing. Two, you used some new materials, and you know what, you maybe you opened up some ideas for what you can do next time to make a better drawing. No, not maybe. That's actually what happens when you draw. You look at, you have to look at what you've done, and I don't spend a lot of time patting myself on the back. I spend more time being critical of what I did and what I could have done better. And it's not a bad thing for me because I want to improve. A lot of times, and when you're younger, when I was younger, I wanted to draw because I realized when I was good at something, that people will compliment me, say good things about what I did, whatever. And then, when you take this work seriously, it becomes harder and harder. It becomes more and more difficult because you realize that you just have to improve, that you have to get better, that you don't want to be stagnant. Then you start realizing the things that you don't do as well as you wish you could do. And it might be a part of the anatomy. Maybe I don't know, maybe you have trouble with your drawing hands and so forth. And then you make a lot of drawings of hands to help improve what you're able to do. But you know what? You become more self-critical, and that's not a bad thing. You know, because at that point you really have to enjoy drawing. You really have to enjoy what you do, and you got to realize this part about being self-critical is not a bad thing. I've done I've written blogs. I have a blog called oh gosh, what's my blog called? Art in the Busy World. And I've written things, and I posted my work, and I just gave I criticized my own work, not in a way where I down it or down myself, but I show where I can improve. And sometimes people respond, well, why are you downing your own work? Why you struggle so much? Why don't you just do what works? Well, if you just do what works all the time, then your work will become stagnant. Then you will never grow. It's just a matter of doing the same things over and over and over again. But that's not what I want. I want to get better at what I do. So if I can't evaluate my work, if I can't look at my work and honestly tell myself what's wrong and what's right about it. It's okay to say what's right about it too, but if I can't be self-critical, if I can't do that, then it's going to just be the same thing over and over again, and it's becomes not exciting because you never improve. So being self-critical is important, and I'll leave a link to my blog below. And another thing is, one of the things is we're afraid to start because we're afraid to make a bad drawing. A bad drawing is not necessarily a bad thing. There's this book called The Art Spirit, where students put together or compiled these lectures that were given by a great painter named Robert Henry, who's a great teacher at the Art Students League in New York. I believe it was the Art Students League. Anyway, one of the things he said, it was never throw out a bad drawing. Never throw out a bad drawing or a painting till you had the time to examine it and know why it is that it's a bad drawing or a bad painting. Now, sometimes you'll know right off why it's a bad drawing or a bad painting, and I've thrown a lot of drawings out. Especially when I'm sketching, I'll ball up paper and throw it in the trash because it's a bad drawing. A lot of times I'll take my eraser and just go ahead and erase away, and not be afraid to make corrections until I get whatever I have to get right, and sometimes I don't get it right. That's more pretty recent because I for a long time I had the idea that you just got to get it right and got to do it fast because that means you're good. But no, that doesn't mean you're good. That just means that you're too hasty with your drawing, or I was too hasty with my drawing. So there's you got to not be afraid to make mistakes. You got to enjoy the mistakes. And another thing to do, and the last thing really is, whatever you think is most difficult for you to draw. It, like I said, it could be a hand, it could be something. Oh, I've said this point before, didn't I? But you know what? Whatever's most difficult to draw, you just go ahead and work on that. So that's basically it. I mean, as far as tackling that issue of not being sure of what to do. Now, this it was a lot more fun to do. It came out better, but a lot of times you can't get that better, or you can't. Well, I don't think that made too much sense. So you can't start to look better. Your drawing can't start to look better until you've made those mistakes, until you've done a bad drawing. I think the drawing I did before this one was a bad drawing. I think this drawing is a better drawing, but it wasn't because I don't think it's an accident that it came about after I already did the bad drawing, you know. But I mean, it's okay. I think that all in all, when I did this video, I was having a difficult time with finding the right brush here. I wasn't satisfied with the inking here, and I realized I just needed another program that was designed for inking. I don't if Sketchbook isn't really designed for inking, even though you can download a number of inking brushes. I made a different video on my other channel. There's another channel that I do these things in real time and I don't speed them up, and I'll leave the link to that and you can look at that. But that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any ideas of how to overcome this block, go ahead and mention them in the comments. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.